Hi everyone, my name is Barkesat, and this is the prototype studio for my virtual life-size chess game. So a quick recap of the real-life scenario, it will essentially be a virtual game where you are pushing around these life-size chess pieces to play the game with your opponent. I will be implementing the functionalities of the back end of such a game, and the front end will be showing a grid with the some icon of the person moving along the grid. As it can be seen here, the person will move along the grid and they will grab a piece and move it according to the rules of chess. So here is a current demo of the implementation so far. As you can see, with every step that the user takes, the tile moves along a grid on a line in one direction towards the right. So, and this is a sort of close-up of the movement of the tile in the grid. You can still sort of sense the steps in this video through the shaking of the phone, but essentially what I have right now is this tile moving along the grid based on the step count coming from the IMU data. And so in terms of the progress, the two main components, the IMU and the user interface, are now connected. But the one thing that I obviously need to get doing is that the UI needs to become an actual chessboard. There are libraries for this where I can easily create this grid along with the images of each one of the chess pieces where they need to be. And the motion directions and the player switching need to be implemented as well. So for this, there are two options that have been mentioned to me before. One was a speech input where the user says turn left and right, etc. I actually got this to work using PyAudio and Assembly AI API, like in Python. And then they told me that I reached some sort of a limit with my free account, so I could not demo this, but I will be showing this in the next studio, hopefully. And then the other option is the gestures where they sort of swipe to turn left and right. These were the two sort of different options I got as feedback. And in terms of the user feedback I got, they said that the step motion was fairly intuitive and it worked well. And the grid, they mentioned that the grid should be bigger to be able to stay a bit more distant from the computer. And regarding the next steps, when I asked them, a couple of feedback I got was that in a game setting, gestures would be a bit more intuitive maybe, but speech could be more fun to just sort of yell out and feel that moment. And they also mentioned that speech could be easier with the walking already happening, so you wouldn't need to do too much physical movement to deal with this chess game in a sense. And they also mentioned some sort of a congratulating state when you get one of the opponent's pieces. There could be some sort of a visual or speech output coming from the computer to celebrate the small victory there. So as a discussion, right now, the IMU step integration and the UI is working very well. I did end up switching from a JavaScript plus web speech API implementation completely. My initial thought was to have the JavaScript and the web speech API from the mini project 3 and sort of extend on that, where I changed the grid to be an 8x8 grid and I changed the images to be chess images, and I sort of build that as my foundation. But at some point, I noticed that the libraries for chess that I was using were not compatible with the usage of web speech API. I was not able to get all of them work at once. And at some point, I had to sort of give up on this and completely switch to Python, which is why not all my components are completely there yet. But I will be continuing on with this Python implementation instead of going back to JavaScript at all. So there will be, for my immediate next step, there will be speech inputs regardless. Even if it's not for turning in motion detection, there will be speech inputs for ending turns and letting the other opponent continue the game. And so my next step is to either upgrade my Assembly AI account, or if you have any input on what type of sort of speech recognition modules you used, how well it worked. I mean, I already have seen your presentations, but still, if you could tell me anything new, that would be great, because this will be my focus right now to make sure that the speech API is also connected, and I have that working as well. And lastly, I will incorporate the Python chess library into my UI to have better representation of the board that is an actual chessboard. So this is my plan so far, and in terms of my progress. Yep. Thank you so much for listening.